Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Today I'm going to do this on behalf of my wife. We'll be talking about the top universities in Canada. I'm going to try to rank it, maybe give some personal opinion, but mostly we're going to look at the Macleans Ranking by the program and as well as overall in entire Canada. And then we'll get into some general cost for the students that international and local they can look forward to, and as well as some other things that you should take under consideration when you are deciding to move to Canada and trying to decide which university and which province should you go to. Let's start with what I think is the most maybe the common program is the engineering undergrad degree. So here you can see we're looking at the Macleans Ranking. Number one, we got that's the University of Toronto. Number two, UBC, that's the University of British Columbia. Then Waterloo, McGill, Alberta, McMaster, and then Montreal, Concordia, Carleton, and Calgary. As you can see, the top three looks like their ranking has not really changed. Actually, top five. But if you look at the program reputation, that's where it gets a little bit interesting because you have Toronto and Waterloo tying, even though Waterloo in overall is coming number three. And then those of you who are interested into research, you can look at the research reputation on beside that as well, where UBC and Waterloo is pretty much tied as well. Once you look at the last field on the right where it says field weighted citation impact, so that's sort of a citation from the field itself and what they think about it. Over there you can actually see that Carleton is like number one there, and we got U of T at number 4. So that gets a bit interesting when you look at overall ranking versus the field weighted citation. Next we'll look at business. Most of it is pretty much the same from previous, but now we see UBC number 1 and U of T number 2, Alberta number 3, and York in number 4, Western number 5, and then it goes to other 5 down below. Some of the universities you saw in previous ranking, they're not here anymore. You can see again, York and Alberta looks like they switched their rank from last year, so Alberta moved up in business. Program reputation wise, Toronto is still number 1, and research, Toronto and UBC is tied. But when you look at the field weighted impact, McMaster is number 1 there, whereas the overall ranking, McMaster is number 7. Next, we'll look at medicine. So here, number 1, UC again, number 2, UBC, then McGill, McMaster, Calgary, and then it goes to a few more after. Some will be new, some you've seen in previous ones. When you look at the last year's ranking, they're pretty much the same, the top 5 position. And program reputation wise is in the exact order as overall ranking, which is pretty amazing, I guess. Research wise, U of T is still number 1, and McGill number 2, and UBC number 3. Field weighted impact, McMaster is on top 1, whereas overall McMaster is in number 4. Next we can look at computer science. So computer science, we got number 1 Toronto again, number 2 UBC, the Waterloo, Montreal, and then McGill. And then you got 5 more universities below. I see Simon Fraser in there. That I think that is a new one in the top 10 we've looked at so far. That is in BC, and I know it's a great university as well. When you look at the last year's ranking, top 5 remains the same. And program reputation wise, we got Waterloo and Toronto tying. Research wise, those of you who are interested, and you can look at that as well. And field weighted impact, we don't even see number 1 on this list. But you have number 2 Montreal and 3 Toronto. Next we can look at education, so that's for those of you who want to go into Bachelor of Education or Masters. Toronto is again number 1, UBC number 2, McGill 3, 4 Alberta, and 5 Simon Fraser again. If you look at last year's ranking, looks like the top 4 kind of switched positions a little bit. McGill and Alberta switched. Research wise, pretty much consistent with the top rankings, except for McGill and Alberta switched. And field weighted impact, we got McGill on top, but overall in number 3. Next, we can look at, if those who are interested in mathematics really quick, you got UBC on 1. Let's look at everything else that might categorize. So like field weighted is number 2 there, but research wise Toronto tops UBC. But then Waterloo is also tying for program reputation and research for number 1 for math. So even though it's number 3 on top, I would say Waterloo is pretty damn good. Now let's look at the top universities in overall in Canada. So not just by program, just top university overall, and we'll also look at the world rating or the world university rank in there as well. I got top 15 here just because, you know, I couldn't fit them all obviously. So in this list you can see number 1 we got U of T. Like we've seen in most of by program as well, U of T was coming on top. So it only makes sense. It's on number 1 in Canada as well, and actually in world ranking it's number 18. So it makes me wonder what's sitting on the first 17. Then number 2 you got British Columbia again, and that was pretty consistent in other lists. And McGill, McMaster, all of these universities we have seen in previous by program lists. Well, you got 2 universities in top 5 that are from Ontario, 2 from Quebec, and 1 from British Columbia. So if you're trying to select which university you want to move to, I would say if you're choosing between Ontario and British Columbia, you're okay. But University of Alberta has been in most of those top 5 lists. Overall, it comes to top 6 over here, so I would say that's a pretty damn good university as well. We've seen University of Montreal, I believe one of the previous lists, so it's coming number 5 here. And then we go into Ottawa U for number 7. I know that's a damn good university as well. My brother went to there. Then you got Calgary, Waterloo again. Waterloo was on top 2 or 3 and 4. It was switching between a lot of the programs, but overall it's coming to number 8 here. And then you got Western, Dalhousie. We have seen those universities in previous lists as well. Laval in Quebec, Queens in Ontario, Simon Fraser again in British Columbia, and University of Manitoba. So most of these universities, I think other than Laval, we have seen in all our previous rankings. Where the world ranking comes to, I mean, who knows how many universities are there in the world. But of course, when you look at the province and like the city wise, it may help you decide which province you want to move to. But one thing to consider is, as you go higher in this list, your cost of program will be going up as well. So that's why we will get into the cost in a little bit. The next ranking we're going to look at is the graduate employment top universities in Canada. Now I got this ranking from the Times Higher Education and Top Universities World Ranking. So this ranking is actually from the employers or the recruiters of several top companies globally. When they did their ranking, or when they took the votes, basically, Global University Employability Rank in 2019, 9 of the Canadian universities showed up on that list. Now, Canadian universities are popular with the international students for several reasons, for cheaper tuition, or the job employability, or whatever other reason the students decide to come here for Canada. It could be just for residentship or just a better life itself. So when you look at this list, of course, number 1 we do have University of Toronto. So that just means when employers, if they look at where you got your degree or your education from, University of Toronto will be their preference and number top. Canada, it's ranked number 1. But when you look at overall in the world, it's number 15. Number 2, we have McGill University, and when you look at the global wise, it's number 17. If you compare U of T and McGill, actually, it looks like U of T dropped 2 positions, and McGill actually went up in position. University of Montreal comes in number 3, and that looks like it's also improved as well in their world ranking. UBC comes in number 4, and that went down world ranking by a few. Number 5, you have McMaster, and that looks to be the same the last few years. University of Alberta comes in number 6. University of Victoria comes in number 7, so now that's in Victoria, British Columbia. It's on the island. Number 8, we have Dalhousie University, and number 9 comes to University of Waterloo. Dalhousie University is actually in Halifax. I've heard very good things about that university, especially for its master's program and its medical program as well. They are very well known. A lot of people don't talk about it, but they kind of sneak in on your top programs and in here and then. They do have a good program there. Another interesting rank that I got was the top beautiful campuses or universities, you can say. Now this is beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so this could be beautiful to you when you get there. It could not be. It's subjective. According to this rank, number 1 was University of British Columbia. Now to me, I would agree. UBC is sort of surrounded by mountains and valleys, so it is definitely beautiful and pretty to see. Number 2, you have Queens University. Now Queens is kind of like an island where you're surrounded by the ocean, and it's across from RMC, a Royal Military College, so it is a very unique and pretty campus as well. Number 3, you got McGill. McGill is in Quebec, so it's got the old look, the old building, so it is very pretty to see as well. Number 4, you got U of T. 5, you got Western. 6, you have Bishop. 7, you have Quest. 8, you have Ryerson University. 9, you have McMaster. And 10, you got University of Manitoba. Now, if that persuades you or sways you in a particular university campus, I'll leave that up to you to decide. Another thing that you guys should know and that is available to you are the different types of scholarship. We have had few people asking about it, like, can we get scholarships or not? Yes, you can. There are several types. There are university scholarships, there are financial scholarships, merit scholarships, country-based, government-funded, privately funded, part scholarships. There are also university scholarships, as I mentioned, and different universities that we found a few scholarship or funds available to even international students. If you're interested, these are some of the universities that are in this list, and there's even a college in there, Humber College, that you can look into, and definitely go onto their website, look for their scholarship in particular, and apply for it once you have been accepted into the universities. So now let's quickly go over the cost of studying here. I'll kind of try to highlight the differences between a local, as in a Canadian student, versus an international student. So an average Canadian pays about $6,500 in Canada for undergrad studies, whereas an international student, they can pay up to $20,000. Some programs like engineering or medicine students for international can obviously cost more, up to $30,000 a year, whereas business and management programs can cost around $20,000 a year. Master's program, for example, they vary from length, right? So they can be anywhere from 2 years, 3 years. There are some even 1.5 years. Those postgraduate degrees for locals can be around $7,000 a year, but some can cost up to $22,000 a year. And for international students, that can hike anywhere from $20,000 to $70,000-$80,000 a year at like one of those top universities. The average cost of university residency or dormitory can be maybe around $200 to $600 per month. If you're looking for private accommodation or your own accommodation, can be probably around like $700 around a month. Now, one of the stats that University of Montreal provided is that their students will need around $15,000 to cover their cost of housing, but University of British Columbia said around $15,500 for their cost of housing. Vancouver is, where I am, one of the most expensive city in Canada to live at, whereas Quebec is like the cheapest you can find. That can kind of differ for private accommodation. A vital factor that you should consider is the compulsory health insurance, which varies in cost from province to provinces. Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and Labrador, Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan cover international students under provincial healthcare plans, but that depends on the length of stay and which country you're from. International students planning to study in Quebec and Ontario, Prince Edward Island, or Yukon must arrange their own private health insurance. If you are living in private accommodation, it can cost maybe around $100 to $150 to cover utilities. So that can be things like electricity, gas, heating, water, and internet, around $40 a month. Now, mind you, most student rentals that I've seen, if it's private, will include those utilities and internet in your rent. For books, you're looking at probably $500 to $600 for maybe a semester or a year, depending on your program again. For public transport, that will heavily depend on the city, but you're looking at probably around $80 to $100 a month. Mind you, a lot of the universities are starting to include the public transport in their tuition. Some call it a U-Pass, which is great if you're living in the city and you're just traveling to university or your college. You should consider when you're moving to a certain province about the warm or the winter here. Of course, provinces like Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Ontario, these are colder provinces. And of course, you have the northern one, Northwest Territories, Yukon. These are even colder. So some of these provinces, temperature can drop to -30, -40. Choose wisely, I guess, or just bring something warm to work. That shouldn't heavily impact your decision for choosing your university. The average weekly food, probably, if you're eating out a lot, that's gonna of course increase your expenditures, but probably around $50. Like a loaf of bread is around $2.60, and if you drive a car, you have insurance, so that can be anywhere from $200 to $400 or $500 depending on where you are. Gas is right now on average, I would say $1.15 Canadian per liter. And if you're trying to go and watch a movie, that's around $11 per person plus tax. So since we got into this tax topic a little bit, I do want to kind of go over the tax situation provincially and federally. So we do have income tax and we do have sales tax. So that may or may not impact your decision, but it's good to know when you're coming here. So when you look at the sales tax in this chart, Alberta, as you can see, doesn't have any provincial rate. Overall, Canada is 5% sales tax, so that's going to be same everywhere. It's the provincial tax that's going to differ a little bit. So Alberta has none. Northwest Territories and Nunavut and Yukon are the 4 provinces that does not have any provincial tax. BC, British Columbia, you can see 7%, Manitoba 7%, Ontario you got 8%, and some of the higher ones like New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and PEI, Quebec, they're 10% or close to 10%. So this goes to like anything pretty much you're buying, electronics or something like a camera, or it could even be certain food items. These will include those tax. If you're buying books, however, you only pay the federal tax. You don't pay the provincial. And in provinces like the Ontario, you don't pay sales tax on things like groceries, medicine, child car seats, things that you don't pay tax that are supposed to be basic necessity, which brings us to, well, how does the income tax differ, right? Federally, let's look into federally first. We do have what they call tax brackets. So meaning depending on how much your income is or a range of income, your tax bracket percentage will be different. So as you can see in this chart, your first 48,000, you're paying 15% out of that. From 48,534 to 97,000, you're paying the 20.5% tax. But from 53,000 to 150,000, you're paying 26%. From $63,000 to 240,000, you're paying 29%. And anywhere above $214,000 income, you're paying 33% tax federally. But does that stop there? No. You still got to pay your provincial tax. So you can see it quickly here. I won't go over each and every province, but some of the more popular ones, like for example Ontario, as you can see, we have 5 different brackets here by the income. Usually if your income is around $60,000, you're paying 11.16%, but above 70,000 you're paying 12%, and then it goes up from there. I do like there's 5 different brackets, so it kind of helps out a lot of people who are in the minimum or in the average income range. Whereas if you look in this chart, Newfoundland, if you're above 54,000, you're already paying 17% tax. In the next chart, we have more provinces here, so let's quickly look at more popular British Columbia. Here you can see there's 6 brackets, but in previous chart, you remember above 60,000, you're paying 12%. Over here, it's above 41,000, you're paying almost 15%. So you're paying a lot more tax in BC. Whereas in Alberta, above 52,000, you're paying 13%. So you could maybe earn a bit more if you're in Alberta, but 1% is not a lot of money if you're thinking about it. So that was all the things that I wanted to cover and sort of give you the information. If you do have any questions about any of those, please let us know in the comments below. And I hope that information does help you in some ways. If it doesn't, then maybe next time, but just let us know how you did, and then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye.